Hello, welcome to this video. The topic for this video is demonstrating how easy it is to set up a React-based project with TypeScript support and Webpack. We are going to use the minimal number of dependencies to make this happen. One advantage to this than using something like Create React App is that you are totally in control of what goes underneath your project in terms of bootstrapping and build and configuration. If you start from a small footprint and are totally aware of what is being used, it's much easier to extend with new functionality, with new configuration, and with new npm packages. I know from experience working on large legacy React code bases that it's a very painful to upgrade the underlying build tooling or frameworks such as Create React App to recent versions, or to even do things like updating Node.js runtime to a newer version. Create React App does not support newer Node.js version. Okay, your app stops compiling. You either need to jump down the rabbit hole and figure out why, and slowly upgrade version by version to the latest version, or you need to just ditch Create React App altogether and write from scratch the Webpack configurations and other bits and pieces to make the whole project work, which is quite a pain since maybe you don't know like what decisions were made and what extra packages are necessary to make it run. Anyways, I am always in favor of totally understanding how my projects run and what goes into them. So without further ado, let's get started. You need some kind of editor. Okay, let's make my window flat on top so that it doesn't disappear. You need also a terminal and you need Node.js. I have Node.js version 20.18.1. Let's start with a few brand new projects. So I created a folder called React from scratch. Currently doesn't have anything. We see the Visual Studio Code open and empty. Let's start by defining a package.json file. We'll use npm utility to initialize a new project. All the defaults are same, except I like to change the license to MIT. Okay, yes, it's okay. So package.json has been created. Dependencies are empty. Let's start by writing a very small React application with just an entry point and a slim app module, which prints hello world to the screen. For that, let's install React and React DOM npm packages. This should give us latest React, which is at version 19. By the way, right now it's Wednesday, February 26, 2025. Yeah, so quite the latest version. Like up to a couple of months ago, it was version 18. We are going to create a source folder to contain our React application and two files. First of all, the index.sx file, the entry point, and also a file for the application components. We will be using TypeScript. Let's install TypeScript. Okay, this should give us the latest TypeScript, which is at version 5.7.3. Right, so the index, first of all, we have the React dependency from React, and also we have let me consult my notes create root from React DOM client. Okay, and yeah, this is the latest React, so we need to create a root from a node, from the DOM node. So the way we go about this is we have some page. On the page we have a div element or element with some ID, so we're gonna target it and instantiate a React app inside this root element. So we have container. This will be our container, which we get from DOM, get element by ID. We're gonna set up the index file, index.html, just a bit. Let's finish with the entry point. So it will be a DOM element with ID root. From that we can create the root React element, and for that we use the create root function. We pass in the container. Okay, one thing to note here is by default Visual Studio Code understands fully the types of any DOM elements and DOM functions, global available functions. However, if you try to highlight the create root, we see that it's an import create root, no typings. So we can fix that. Let's install typings for React and React DOM. We can install from the types project, so we want to types React and also types React DOM, and Visual Studio should pick it up automatically. So now create root is typed. It knows that it should get a container, and automatically it catches a potential problem saying that the container at this point, it can be either an HTML element or null, and this is because the get element by ID might not return anything if there is no element with ID root on the page. So to fix this, we can have an if condition, and saying that if container is undefined or null, let's just throw a new error with a message root element not found on the page. Okay, and the error goes away. Good. After that is done, we can instantiate it, and the way you do that, we can render our application. So here we're gonna use strict mode. So we have strict mode, right? And this is a pseudo element, right? And inside this we pass in the application. For now it's undefined because we have not defined it yet. Let's define application component. So in the app tsx, we are going to once again import React from React. We're going to define a function component saying this is going to be the app component. We are going to return a template with just a single div element, and it will say for now hello world. Don't forget to export the app component. Going back to the index starting point, import application, right, and it compiles. Right, so where to proceed from here? We have the application component, we have the index starting point. So now we need to use WebPack to actually bundle everything together, give us an index HTML point, and to serve it using WebPack dev server so that we can load it here. Right now, if we try to load it, right, nothing's here. So we want to see the application here. Okay, for that we need to get Webpack, and besides Webpack there is a few additional packages that we're gonna need. We're going to have to use the dev Webpack. We're going to use the Webpack dev server to run our application while we develop. So Webpack Dev Server. We will also need a plugin to tell Webpack how to handle HTML files. It needs to build an index HTML for the browser to load. So let's install that too. So that's going to be HTML Webpack plugin. HTML. Right. So Webpack Dev Server is at version 5, HTML Web Plugin version 5, and Webpack itself version 5. Great. Next step is to define the Webpack config. It's going to be found in the root of the folder of the project. By convention, it's called Webpack config.js, and what it is actually like a basic Node.js script which is being parsed when Webpack starts to get the Webpack config. So the structure of it is you do some imports, you define the Webpack config, and you export the config. Alright, so first of all we need to require Webpack itself. This is JavaScript, so we're gonna use require instead of imports. Okay, and we're gonna require the HTML Webpack plugin to handle HTML files. Webpack plugin. Require HTML Webpack plugin. Okay. The config itself is just a simple object. So we are going to define it right now, and module exports Webpack config. As simple as that. Let's see that it actually runs, and the way we're going to use that is we're going to define here a script. So npm run start is going to invoke Webpack server, so Webpack Dev Server. Okay, and let's test it now, but obviously it's probably gonna fail. Npm run start, but it should give us something. Okay, it says we are gonna have to have Webpack CLI. Alright, so this is a dependency I missed. Let's see what this is. Webpack CLI, set of commands for developers setting up a custom Webpack project. Oh, I guess it's a top level porcelain, like that provides a few additional things needed to run Webpack Dev Server. Sure, let's install it. Npm install Webpack CLI. Okay, it's installed. Let's see what happens if we run it now. Npm run start. Okay, good. Good. So yeah, obviously as expected there are errors. We need to define the config. So Webpack works as follows. It starts at some point, like an input from a source directory, and it bundles everything according to rules and configuration options into a destination build folder. Let's define those first. So we're gonna have a source folder. This is going to be src. The full path will provide a bit down. This is just the name of the folder, and the build folder is going to be build. You can override these, name them any way you want. Make sure that here the src matches the source folder. Okay, the config. we are going to start with entry point, and the entry is a path to have a normalized path which will work in Windows, in Mac, in Linux. We're going to use npm module path for that. That will provide us normalization functionality. Okay, so join several. Okay, join any. Strange. Why doesn't it provide? Because that should be a string. Now it knows that join is a function which takes several literals arguments. So we have the directory name, we have the source folder name, and we have the script, the starting point, index tsx. Okay, the entry point is mapped. Now we have a definition forward to where Webpack is going to put it, the output. For that, there's two options. There is a path, which basically is the same as entry point, except we're gonna have a build folder name for that, and we're gonna specify a file name to generate. File name, it's like a template, so Webpack is gonna substitute the name here with the auto-generated name, probably some hash, outputs it with a suffix of JS. So in short, it starts with index tsx, goes through all the dependencies, sees that there's an app tsx, puts it all into one big bundle and saves it to the build folder with the name blah 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 .js. Okay, that's good. Next, we need to actually teach it what to do with a tsx files. So for that, we are going to define the custom module and define rule how to figure out that it should use a TypeScript loader to load TypeScript files if they are ending with a .tsx extension. So a module, it's a object with a rules array. Rules have rules basically are applied on a file per file basis, and they need to match a regular expression in order to be applied. So in our case, we want a tsx to match. We are going to exclude everything in node modules. We are going to use a custom loader called ts loader, and here let's see what it is. ts loader, it's a Webpack loader to load TypeScript. There's a lot of configurations, right? For that, we only want to define the context. The context to set like under what path to search, and we want it to look at everything starting with the current directory name. Good. Right, so that is done. Okay, but except this is applied within the options object. Okay, so modules is done. We need to also tell Webpack what to resolve, and to also to look into node modules and to see if there is like a JavaScript or the TypeScript additional dependencies. So for example, here when we do imports of React DOM / client create root, is going to go to some node modules folder with TypeScript files. So Webpack needs to actually know to include those two, and you do that by telling extensions what files with what extensions to consider, and we want to consider JavaScript files and also type tsx types files, right? Okay, so that is good. So modules we have defined, resolve, what to resolve we have defined. Next, we need to initialize the plugins, so the index.html plugin and also the source map plugin. So we're gonna have the plugins section, which is an array. Plugins are instantialized as classes, so we have the new keyword and then the plugin class, providing some configuration options. For the configuration for the HTML plugin, we need to tell it what template to use. It will be found in template path, so current directory name in the public folder, and not to forget, let's create that folder and put a index.html template here. Next HTML. Okay, I'm gonna define it a bit later. Okay, so folder name and also file name index.html. Okay, then we need to tell it where to store it, so it's going to basically put the same, except it will output it into the build folder instead of the public, so build folder. And another thing, like a very useful trick, is to say that it should be used with hashes, meaning that after each rebuild there will be part of the name a hash, which will tell the browser to skip any caching and to load the latest version. Yeah, so that's for the index.html HTML files plugin. And the other plugin is plugin for source maps. Some simple configuration is how to name the source map, and for that it's a template with name.js.map. And the browser recognizes js.map as a source map. Okay, 2 or 3 more things. First of all, we need to define configuration for the development server. So for that we have server. This is what's going to serve our application locally as we develop. We want it to run on port 3000. We want it not to be open, meaning that it will only bind to localhost and not 0000. And we want hot reload to be disabled for now. And this is a sane default. It can be set to true. However, I find it that it's less buggy when set to false. It still does auto reloading, as I will show you in a second. Okay, and 2 more things. First of all, dev-tool mode, it will be false. Let me show you what it is. So dev-tool. As you use source maps, there are different various levels of integration to the browser DevTools, and we want to have the least amount of integration, which will be less code. Yes, and besides that, we also going to define the mode of the build, and this can be either development or production, and it instructs WebPack to include more debug information, etc. Right, so with that having defined and a package script for running it, let's see if it will actually work this time. So npm run start. Okay, some error. Let's see what it is. Can't resolve TS loader. So in the webpack we are specifying that tsx file should be used with ts loader, and in the package we don't have it. So probably means that we have not yet installed it. Okay, we're gonna install it. Install this loader. Okay, and you see we are up to 8 npm packages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is quite minimal. The other ones, the types, are nice to have to let the IDE understand the typings, so they don't really count towards the build. We can build it without them. Let's see if it's actually gonna start this time. Okay. Config file test JSON is empty. Sure, let's create a top level TypeScript config. So for the TypeScript config, there are several things to mention. First of all, everything is going to go into the compiler options. We're going to say that we're going to use JSX of flavor React. TypeScript understands it out of the box. We are going to sorry for that, a bit under the weather today. To true this yes module interrupt. It's a standard option which allows you to do things like import like that, or if you need to, you can go star as React. Anyways, this is required in our case. Also, we need to specify what library of types we want to load, and here it's definitely we want the DOM library. This for TypeScript to understand properly what is things like document and get element by ID. Even though the VS Code understands it, when you actually invoke TSC TypeScript compiler build, for that to understand, the configuration needs to include the DOM library. And the last thing is we want the source map to be true. We want to generate source map for this project. Okay, let's see if this is gonna help. npm run start. Oh, it actually builds without errors. Let's see if it's gonna work. So we're gonna go to localhost 3000. Oh, it actually does build. Let's see. Okay, so it's a to-do without things. Inspect console, elements not found on the page. All right, so HTML loads, but React doesn't load, and this is exactly why we had this container check. Let's add the root element on the page for that to actually work. Okay, so this is a standard doc type HTML. We have HTML, we have the head. Let's add several, one meta, and this will be the char set type UTF-8. Okay, let's add a title, bare bones React app. Okay, so that's enough for that. Language will be English. This is just HTML5 standard boilerplate. Now the body will contain a div element with ID roots. Okay, let's see if this is gonna work. Hello world. Interesting. So it picked up the change right away. Let's test it some more. Let's say like maybe 1, 2, 3. Okay, it builds it. Nice. Let's add some logic to actually debug the code. So make this h1. This will be a header, and add a input of type button. Value will be click me. Okay, so buttons there. Click. We want to actually do something. When we have it clicked, so on click is going to be click me function. Define the function click me, doesn't take any parameters for now, and console log, and let's say button clicked. Okay, let's see. You clicked me, button clicked. Wait, that's awesome. Let's see it actually do some debugging and to show that the source code actually understands the source maps. So you click and oh, you are in the debugger. Okay, expand the window to see a bit more. Okay, so you see source maps are working. I see in the DevTools the full source of the application app.tsx. Okay, down to the bottom. Basically, we are done. Now, obviously, this is a very minimal application. I mean, you would want to add for production project like routing, everything, and development builds and everything else that is required for a production application. However, this is a starting point which you completely understand and which you can extend in any amount of ways, and you're not afraid that you're missing something that is hidden underneath in some weird package which is not accessible to you and you have to like fork or remove to add. This project will be available online. I will put it to my GitHub. So if you go to Google and search for me, so Valera Rose 1, go to my GitHub under repositories, just narrow down to React repositories, and you will see here React from scratch. So basically this is already published. It's the same project you see here. So here in source you see the application, which is basically the same application and has a button and a debugger, and here if you check the webpack config, it's basically the same webpack config, right? Only I think extra I have is the favorite icon which I added. If you add this configuration, make sure to place your favorite icon in the public folder, right? And if you want to go further than this bare minimum to add all the extra things like assets loading, state management, routing, environment variables, the next project is React Webpack Starter. You can navigate it. The link is included in the repository. And this is a continuation of the small project that adds all the extra things to have a production ready React starter kit with Webpack and TypeScript. All instructions are written here. Right, so that's it. Thank you for being with me. I hope this will be useful to you. It will be definitely useful to me when I go next time and try to start up a new React project without using things like create React app. See you next time. Bye.